She was just a tired black waitress finishing another long shift, a woman counting tips, not chasing headlines. He was a white CEO in a tailored blue suit, dining alone beneath the city lights. They had nothing in common until the moment she leaned close, voice shaking, and whispered a warning that could cost her everything. One whisper across a linen-covered table, and suddenly, the man with all the power realized the only person who could save his empire was the woman the world never bothered to see. It had started like any other evening at the Harbor Room. Janelle Brooks pushed through the staff entrance with one hand on the metal door and the other holding her phone. On the screen was a reminder from the pharmacy. Refill due in 6 days. She slid the phone into her apron, closed her eyes for a second and breathed. Lord, she murmured under her breath. No broken glasses tonight, no yelling, and please let Mama's heart medicine come through. The hallway smelled like lemon cleaner and roasted garlic. In the main room, the white tablecloths were already set, candles unlit, wine glasses lined up like little crystal soldiers. Janelle tied her black apron, smoothed her ponytail, and stepped into the dining room with the careful grace she'd learned over years of pretending her feet didn't hurt. Evening. Janelle, called Denise at the hostess stand. Hey, Janelle said. We full tonight? Packed, Denise replied. And we've got a big one in your section. Some tech guy. Real important, Janelle gave a small smile. Important people were nothing new. Important people ate scallops and sent steaks back when they were fine. Important people never thought about who washed their forks. She moved through her section, checking place settings. Fork, knife, napkin, water glass. Breathe. Then the front doors opened, and the air in the room changed. He stepped in like he was used to rooms making space for him. Tall. White. Late 40s maybe. Dark hair going a little silver at the temples. Navy suit that fit so well it almost looked painted on. He carried no coat, just a slim leather briefcase and a phone he didn't bother to look at. Denise straightened. Mr. Avery, welcome back, she said, voice softer than usual. Janelle felt her stomach tighten. Thomas Avery. She knew that name. She'd seen it lit up on TV above a stock ticker, seen it in an article she'd read in the hospital waiting room while her mother slept. The article had said his company was about to buy a medical software firm for nearly $1 billion. New system, new data, new efficiency. Her thumb had traced the numbers then. $1 billion. Her mom's pills were $83 a bottle. Now the same man walked past her tables and slid into the corner booth by the window. The city lights stretched behind him, soft and golden over the river. Janelle swallowed, grabbed a water pitcher, and went to him. Good evening, Mr. Avery, she said, keeping her voice steady. Welcome to the Harbor Room. He glanced up, nodded once. Still sparkling water? She asked. Yes. Thank you, he said. His voice was calm, measured. The kind of voice that ordered whole companies around and never needed to shout. She poured his water, set a slice of lemon on the rim, and stepped back. He was already scrolling through numbers on his phone. She turned toward the bar to grab a bottle of sparkling and walked down the narrow side hallway that led past the coat closet and restrooms. The music from the main room faded. In the hallway, the air felt cooler, the light dimmer. That's when she heard them. 2 men, low voices, just around the bend by the closet. He signs tonight, it's locked, one said, smooth, confident. By Monday morning, the whole system moves to our servers. And he won't see it? The other asked. His tone was tight, nervous. He'll see what we show him, the first man replied. We wrote the patient data through our shell, moved the core tools offshore, and he keeps smiling for the cameras. By the time he realizes it, it's ours. Janelle stopped mid-step. Patient data. Her mind flashed to her mother, to monitors and charts and the nurse who had typed her name into a computer like she was an inventory number. The first man laughed, a soft, ugly sound, He trusts us, he said. That's the beauty of it. Trust is the cheapest leverage in the world. Janelle leaned back, trying to see their faces through the narrow gap at the edge of the coat closet. Her elbow caught the edge of a metal tray stand. The stand tipped. A clean wine glass slid, hit the tile floor, and shattered. The sound cracked down the hallway, bright and sharp. Both voices stopped. Footsteps turned. "Who's back there?" The smooth one snapped. Janelle's heart slammed against her ribs. "Move," her mind whispered. "Now." She spun on her heel and ran. Her black flats slapped the floor as she flew down the hallway toward the kitchen, the sound swallowed by the hiss of steam and clatter of plates ahead. Behind her, heavy shoes pounded once, twice, then stopped. She cut the corner too fast, right into a solid wall of tuxedo. Her manager. "Easy there," Mr. Carver grunted, grabbing her by the shoulders before she fell. His graying hair was slicked back, his expression already pinched in anger. "What on earth are you doing sprinting like that?" "Sorry," Janelle gasped. I dropped the glass, and behind him, the two men from the hallway slowed. One wore a charcoal suit, hair dark and carefully styled, eyes like polished stone. The other was younger, restless, his gaze flicking past Janelle and away. Mr. Carver flashed them a tight smile. "So sorry, gentlemen," he said smoothly. "New staff. Still learning the ropes." They gave a dismissive nod and moved on toward the main room. Janelle kept her eyes on the floor until they passed. Then, Carver's fingers dug into her arm as he pulled her aside. "What are you trying to do?" he hissed. It was an accident," she said. "The stand slipped and—" "This is not some corner diner," he said, his voice low but sharp. "Our guests do not come here to see people racing around like it's a bus station." "I understand," she whispered. "Do you?" His gaze flicked down her uniform, then back up. "Because if you scare off a table like that man in the corner, you won't have to worry about a schedule here ever again." Her throat tightened. "I'm sorry. Mr. Carver, you break one more glass, you cause one more scene, and you can go back to wherever you came from," he said. "We keep people comfortable here. You don't forget that." He straightened her apron with two sharp tugs. "Now breathe," he muttered, "and smile. You do know how to smile, right?" She nodded. "Yes, sir." He walked away, already tapping on his tablet, already done with her. Janelle leaned against the cool stainless steel counter just inside the kitchen, trying to slow her pulse. Her hands trembled. The broken glass, the men, the words, they all swirled together. By Monday morning, it's ours. Trust is the cheapest leverage. She thought of her mother sitting on their faded couch, pill bottles lined up on the coffee table like tiny white soldiers. She thought of the night the insurance changed, just like that, and the nurse had said, "I'm sorry, your coverage ended last week." If someone had warned us, she thought. If someone had said something before the papers were signed, before the forms changed, before the medicine became out of network. Her grandfather's voice floated up from some quiet corner of memory. He'd been a church deacon back in Georgia, gentle, slow to speak, but firm once he did. "Doing right won't always keep you safe, Nellie," he'd told her once on a front porch swing, "but it'll let you sleep." Her legs felt weak. Her job, her rent, her mother's medicine, all of it rested on this paycheck. She could stay quiet. She could go back to filling water glasses and pretend she had never heard anything. Her fingers curled into her apron, or she could walk over to that corner booth and tell the man whose name was on the news that someone was about to steal the ground out from under him. Janelle straightened, her heart hammered. But something steadier rose beneath the fear. Not courage exactly, just the simple knowledge that if she went home tonight having said nothing, she would see her own face in the bathroom mirror and not like what looked back. She stepped out of the kitchen. The dining room glowed now. Candles lit, soft jazz floating from the speakers. forks glinting under the warm lights. At the corner booth, Thomas Avery sat alone, one hand around his water glass, the other resting near his phone. The chair across from him was still empty. Janelle walked toward him, each step measured, her palms damp. When she reached the table, he looked up, a faint crease between his brows. "Is everything all right?" he asked. Her mouth felt dry. "Sir," she said quietly, keeping her voice low so no one else could hear. "I know this is unusual, but I think you need to leave. Tonight. Right now." For the first time, his attention fully locked on her. "I beg your pardon?" he said. She swallowed. "Please," she whispered. "I overheard something about your deal, about your company, and if you stay, I think they're going to take everything from you." His fingers stilled on the table, and in that small, flickering moment between doubt and belief, Janelle Brooks realized she might have just changed both of their lives. For a heartbeat, no one spoke. The room buzzed with the soft hum of silverware and jazz. Somewhere, a cork popped. Janelle could hear her own pulse thudding in her ears. Mr. Avery set his glass down slowly. "Did someone send you?" he asked. She shook her head. "No, sir, I just overheard something I shouldn't have." He studied her face for a long moment. His eyes were sharp, used to reading people, weighing motives. She could see him deciding whether she was a problem or a warning. Finally, he said, "Tell me." Her voice came out in a whisper. "Two men. By the hallway near the restrooms. They were talking about your deal. Said something about routing patient data, moving it offshore, before you even sign." He went still. "Did you recognize them?" "I didn't see their faces clear. Just one tall dark hair, the other younger, both wearing suits. They said you'd never see it coming." Avery leaned back, one hand rubbing his jaw. For the first time, she saw uncertainty slip into his eyes. "Excuse me," he murmured, reaching for his phone. She took a half step back. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to." He lifted a hand. "You did the right thing. Stay here." He made a quick call, voice low but urgent. A few words about server logs and verification. Then he ended it, exhaled through his nose, and looked up at her again. "What's your name?" "Janelle Brooks. How long have you worked here?" "Almost 3 years," he nodded. "You said they were by the coat closet?" "Yes, sir." His gaze flicked toward the hall. For a second, he looked like a man trying to piece together a puzzle that suddenly changed shape. Then he stood. "Miss Brooks," he said quietly, "you should go back to the kitchen. You haven't seen me leave." "But, please," he said, softer this time. "Trust me." That word, trust, hit her like a spark. She nodded, stepping back as he slid a few bills beneath his water glass and walked calmly toward the side exit. No rush, no panic, just control. The kind that said he'd survived too many storms to show fear in public. Janelle turned and moved toward the kitchen. Her hands trembled as she grabbed a tray of glasses just to look busy, but she couldn't stop glancing at the hallway, half expecting those two men to reappear. They didn't. Mr. Avery was gone. The rest of the night passed in a blur. Orders came and went. The jazz played on. At closing time, Janelle cleaned her section in silence, heart heavy with the thought that maybe she'd misunderstood everything. Maybe she'd just thrown herself into trouble for nothing. When she got home, the apartment was dark except for the blue glow of the TV. Her mother was asleep on the couch, a quilt pulled up to her chin, her breathing soft and even. Janelle stood there for a long time, watching her. Then she went to her room, sat on the edge of the bed, and opened her hands. Her palms were still shaking. "Doing right won't always keep you safe," she whispered, echoing her grandfather's words. "But it'll let you sleep." She tried, but she didn't. Morning came gray and cold. She was halfway through her first cup of coffee when her phone buzzed. "Unknown number, Miss Brooks," a man's voice said. "This is David Klein, assistant to Mr. Thomas Avery. He asked that you come to his office this morning." 11 sharp, she blinked. I don't understand." He said you'll understand when you get here. He gave her the address, top floor of the Avery Tech Tower downtown. She looked at the clock. 8:14. Her first thought was to call the restaurant. Her second was to say no. But something deeper pushed her forward. The same something that had made her speak last night. By 10:30, she stood in front of the mirrored doors of Avery Tech. The lobby was all marble and glass, with a waterfall running down one wall and the company's logo glinting above the reception desk. She felt small walking across that polished floor in her thrift store blazer and cleanest shoes. The receptionist smiled politely. "Miss Brooks, Mr. Avery is expecting you." She was guided to a private elevator, silent, fast, lined with brushed steel. Her reflection stared back at her. Tired eyes, steady jaw. When the doors opened, she stepped into a sunlit office that looked out over half the city. Thomas Avery stood near the window, hands in his pockets. "Miss Brooks," he said, turning toward her, "thank you for coming." "I wasn't sure if I should," she admitted. "I'm glad you did." He gestured to a chair. "Please." She sat, trying not to stare at the rows of framed awards on the wall. A fresh pot of coffee steamed between them. He poured 2 cups, slid one toward her. "I owe you an apology," he said. "And probably a thank you," she frowned. "For what?" He exhaled slowly. "You were right. Someone inside the acquisition team had rerouted files, hidden them behind dummy servers. If we'd signed last night, our patient data system would have been compromised." Her chest tightened. "So it was real, it was," he said. "And your warning stopped it." She didn't know what to say. The room felt suddenly too bright, too still. "I don't know how you heard what you did," he continued, "but it saved my company millions, and probably a lot of people's privacy." He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "I've built a career around data, risk, and numbers. But sometimes it's a person with no reason to help you who tells you the truth." He smiled faintly. "I'd like to offer you a position." Her mouth fell open. "Sir, I'm a waitress," he chuckled softly. "No, you're someone who listens when it's easier not to. Someone who speaks up when others stay quiet. I need more people like that." Janelle stared at him. The words didn't fit her world. They didn't belong to someone who counted tips to pay for medication. "I wouldn't even know where to start," she said finally. He smiled. "We'll teach you." She looked down at her cup. Steam rose in soft spirals. She thought about her mother, her rent, her tired hands. Maybe this was what her grandfather meant. How doing right didn't keep you safe. But sometimes, if you were lucky, it led somewhere you never expected. "I'll think about it," she said quietly. He nodded. "That's all I ask." That night, as she rode the bus home, the city lights flashed across her reflection in the window. She could still hear his voice, steady, sure, like the hum of the engine beneath her. Outside, rain began to fall. Inside, for the first time in a long time, she felt something close to peace. She didn't know what would happen next, but she knew this. She had spoken the truth once, and it had changed everything, and maybe, just maybe, that was only the beginning. The next morning, Janelle woke before dawn. Rain tapped against the window, steady and soft, like a clock she couldn't turn off. For a moment, she lay there, wondering if yesterday had really happened. The phone call, the office, the offer. Her mother stirred in the next room, coughing lightly. Janelle rose, slipped on her robe, and went to help. "Morning, baby," her mother rasped with a faint smile. "You're up early again." "Couldn't sleep," Janelle said, pouring her a glass of water. Her mother's eyes softened. "That job got you worried?" Janelle hesitated. "Kind of." "Baby, worry don't fix much," her mother said, taking the glass. "You pray, you breathe, and you walk where the light is. The rest shows itself." Janelle smiled faintly. "You sound like Grandpa," her mother chuckled. "Well, that man never said much that wasn't worth keeping." By the afternoon, Janelle was standing once again in the Avery Tech lobby. This Time in a clean navy blouse and borrowed, heels that pinched her toes. A young woman in a headset led her down a hallway lined with glass walls and muted artwork. The air smelled faintly of coffee and new electronics. They stopped at a bright, open office filled with computer screens and soft chatter. A man in his 30s turned when she entered. "Miss Brooks?" he asked, standing. "I'm Samuel Diaz, training coordinator. Mr. Avery asked me to show you around." He smiled easily, and some of the tension in her shoulders eased. "This way," he said. "Welcome to the Data Integrity Team." The words sounded like something from another planet. He led her past rows of desks where people typed quickly, eyes fixed on glowing monitors. Screens showed graphs, maps, and lines of code she didn't understand. "This department watches the data that moves through our medical systems," Samuel explained. "Every number, every transfer, every patient record. We make sure nothing's stolen or sold." Janelle nodded slowly. "So, you catch the bad guys?" He grinned. "That's one way to put it." They stopped beside an empty workstation near the window. "This'll be you," Samuel said. "We'll start you on security flag reports. Simple pattern checks, nothing fancy. You'll learn fast," she smiled nervously. "You sound awfully sure." "I read Mr. Avery's note," he said. "Said you've got good instincts. Around here, that's worth more than a tech degree." Something in his tone, light, genuine, made her exhale. Maybe she did belong here, even if just a little. Days passed, then weeks. The rhythm became familiar. Bus ride, ID badge, coffee, screens, training. She learned to spot patterns in the numbers. Odd spikes, sudden gaps. She didn't understand the code yet, but she was beginning to see. Sometimes she'd catch sight of Mr. Avery in the halls, always moving, always surrounded by people. But every now and then he'd glance her way and give a small nod. It wasn't a boss's nod. It was something quieter, a reminder. One evening she stayed late reviewing a report from a regional hospital. The room was almost empty, just the low hum of computers. She sipped cold coffee and leaned closer to the screen. Something didn't look right. A row of data transfers marked authorized, but the timestamps didn't match the system logs. She frowned. "That's odd." She checked again. 3 entries. Same signature key. But the digital signature belonged to someone who'd left the company 2 months ago. Her stomach dropped. She flagged the files, sent a report to the audit inbox, and shut down her terminal. But as she gathered her things, she caught a reflection in the darkened window. Someone standing just outside the office doorway. A man. Watching her. When she turned, he was gone. The next morning, Samuel found her early. "Hey," he said, setting a coffee cup on her desk. "You okay? You look like you saw a ghost." She told him about the data mismatch, the report, and the shadow in the hallway. He frowned. "You did the right thing reporting it. But don't stay alone here too late, all right? These systems, they make people nervous when money's involved." She nodded. "You think someone's still inside the company?" "Could be," he said. "But if they are, Avery'll find them. He doesn't play games when it comes to trust." She thought about that word again. Trust. It followed her everywhere now, like a ghost in the code. Later that day, Mr. Avery called her into his office. He stood near the window again, sunlight cutting sharp across the skyline. "Miss Brooks," he said, "you found something last night." Her pulse quickened. I just noticed a few signatures that didn't match." He nodded slowly. "And you reported it?" "Yes, sir." He smiled just slightly. "Good, because those files were part of a network breach. Whoever's behind it has been covering their tracks for weeks. But your report, your eyes, spotted what the software missed." She blinked. "I did." "You did." He crossed the room, stopping near his desk. "I know this isn't the world you came from. But you've got something people here forget." "What's that?" "Instinct," he said simply. "And heart. The kind that doesn't fit on a resume." For a second, neither of them spoke. The city stretched out behind him, bright, endless. Then he added quietly, "If you keep this up, Miss Brooks, you won't be fetching coffee in 6 months. You'll be running your own team." She laughed softly. "I don't even know how half these systems work," he smiled. "You'll learn. You already know the most important part, seeing what others don't want to see." That night, as she left the tower, the air smelled like rain again. The streets glimmered, and the city lights reflected in every puddle. Janelle paused at the bus stop, hands tucked into her coat pockets, and looked up at the Avery Tech logo glowing high above. She still didn't fully understand how she'd gotten here, but maybe that was the point. Sometimes, she thought, courage didn't look like shouting or fighting. Sometimes it was just listening when you weren't supposed to, and choosing not to look away. And for the first time in years, she smiled without forcing it, because maybe, just maybe, she wasn't the waitress anymore. Maybe she was the one keeping the lights on. The winter wind came early that year, sharp, restless, and loud. It rattled the office windows as Janelle sat at her desk, staring at another long string of numbers. The glow of the monitor painted her face pale blue. Her eyes burned. Her coffee had gone cold hours ago. She rubbed her temples and leaned back. "Okay, Brooks," she muttered. "One more report, then you go home." But something about the numbers wouldn't let her go. A new vendor account had appeared overnight. Just one. It was registered under a small consulting firm out of Denver. But when she checked the business database, the firm didn't exist. No website. No phone, no trace. Her stomach tightened. She cross-checked the approval signature. It matched someone in the finance department. E. Carver. She froze. Carver. It couldn't be. The name dragged her back to that restaurant hallway months ago. The angry voice, the hand gripping her arm, the cold warning. "We keep people comfortable here." You don't forget that. Could it be the same man? Janelle took a steady breath, clicked deeper into the audit trail, and felt her pulse race. The account had authorized 4 data transfers in the past week, all labeled System Calibration. But they were sending encrypted patient analytics to an offshore IP. This wasn't just a ghost account. It was theft. Again, she looked around the quiet room. Only a few lights were on. Samuel's desk sat empty. He'd left an hour ago. The hum of the servers filled the silence. She could wait until morning. Tell Samuel. Tell security. But she remembered how close the company had come last time. How one delay might have changed everything. She hesitated. Only a second before grabbing her phone. Tianu 47. PM Avery Tech's private elevator opened with a chime. Thomas Avery stepped out, coat unbuttoned, eyes tired. His assistant had called him mid-dinner when Janelle's message came through. He found her still at her desk, screen glowing, hands tight on the keyboard. "Miss Brooks," he said, crossing the room. "What's going on?" She turned the monitor toward him. "I think someone's back at it. Fake vendor. Offshore transfers. And the approval name..." She hesitated. "Carver." Avery's jaw set. "Show me." She clicked through the files, explaining what she'd traced. Her voice was steady now, focused. Avery leaned over her shoulder, eyes flicking across the data. Finally, he exhaled. "You just caught the man who nearly buried us last quarter." Her heart stuttered. "So it is him?" He nodded grimly. "Edward Carver. He used to manage one of our supply accounts before I bought him out years ago. I didn't realize he'd found his way back under a shell company." "What do we do?" "We lock him out," Avery said, straightening. "And we make sure this never happens again." He turned to her. "Can I trust you to keep this between us for now?" She met his gaze. "Yes, sir," he smiled faintly. "I knew you'd say that." Then he tapped his watch. "Go home. You've done enough for one night." But Janelle hesitated. "If he's back in the system, he's not working alone." He paused. "You think someone inside helped him?" She nodded slowly. "The access points are internal. He couldn't have built those tunnels without help." Avery's eyes darkened. Then we'll find out who. The next morning, the building buzzed like a shaken beehive. Security teams moved in quiet urgency. Logins were frozen. Emails locked. By noon, the investigation had a name: Internal Breach 2.0. Janelle tried to keep her head down, but whispers followed her like shadows. Everyone knew she'd been the one to flag the account. Samuel stopped by her desk. "You okay?" She managed a half-smile. "I think so," he nodded. "Word is, Carver's people might have tried to plant someone in here." "Any idea who?" He lowered his voice. "Not yet, but Avery's personally reviewing all department heads." She stared at her monitor, uneasy. The idea of someone smiling in the hallway by day and stealing data by night made her skin crawl. By the end of the week, they knew. The breach traced back to a senior manager, someone who'd worked under Avery for years. A man named Paul Raines. He'd been quietly rerouting analytics contracts to Carver's shell firm, taking a cut for himself. When security escorted him out, the office went silent. Janelle watched from her desk as Raines walked past, shoulders stiff, eyes flat. He didn't look angry. He looked empty, and in that emptiness she saw something she recognized from her old life. That moment when a person stops believing in right and wrong, when it all just becomes survival. She swallowed hard. That evening, Avery called her up again. He stood at the window like always, city lights shimmering behind him. "You did it again," he said quietly. "I just followed the numbers," she said. He smiled. "That's what heroes always say. Heroes?" She repeated, shaking her head. "No, sir. I'm just trying to keep my job." He laughed softly. "Maybe, but this company stands today because you keep paying attention when others don't." He walked around his desk, stopping beside her. "Tell me, Miss Brooks, what do you really want to do here?" She blinked. "What do you mean?" "Long term. You've got a gift for detail. You see patterns before anyone else. You could lead our integrity division if you wanted." She stared at him, caught between disbelief and fear. "Me? Lead?" He nodded. "You've already been doing it. You just don't call it that yet." Silence stretched. Outside, the skyline glowed like embers. Then she said quietly, "I never thought I'd be sitting in a place like this." He smiled. "Maybe this place needed someone like you." Later that night, Janelle stood at the bus stop again. But this time, when the wind cut across her face, she didn't flinch. She thought about her grandfather's voice, about her mother's soft wisdom. She thought about trust, the word that had once sounded like a trap but now felt like a bridge. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring. But for the first time, she wasn't afraid of it, because now she wasn't just surviving. She was shaping something, bigger than herself, brighter than fear. And in the dark reflection of the city bus window, Janelle Brooks smiled. The waitress was gone. The woman standing there was someone new. Spring came soft and slow that year. The city thawed, and with it, something inside Janelle did too. She'd been at Avery Tech nearly 6 months now. Her desk had moved, up one floor, closer to the core team. Her nameplate no longer said trainee. It said Data Integrity Analyst. Every time she saw it, she smiled, just a little. That morning, she arrived early. The glass tower still hummed with quiet. Sunlight spilled through the windows, gold and clean, catching on the polished floors. She brewed the first pot of coffee like old habit, then walked to the corner window. From here, she could see the river. It shimmered in the early light, and the city beyond it glowed awake. Her phone buzzed. A message from her mother. "Doctor says my heart's stronger. Proud of you, baby." Janelle closed her eyes, letting the warmth rise through her chest. For the first time in years, her mother's medicine was never late. The bills got paid on time. The world felt steady. At 10, Mr. Avery called her in. He stood by the conference table, jacket off, sleeves rolled. He looked tired, but lighter somehow. Morning, Miss Brooks, he said with that small smile of his. Morning, sir. He motioned toward a seat. I've been meaning to tell you something. She sat. He picked up a folder, tapped it once against the table. The board approved a new division, Data Ethics and Integrity, a dedicated team that makes sure our technology serves people, not profits. And I'd like you to help lead it. She blinked. Sir, I'm honored, but I'm not. You are, he said simply. You've proven it, over and over. She shook her head, half laughing. 6 months ago, I was pouring water and praying not to drop a glass. And now you're keeping this company honest, he said. We can't build trust in the world if we don't start with it here. She stared at him, searching for words. He leaned forward. I'm not offering this because you caught bad people. I'm offering it because you remind me what right looks like when everyone else forgets. The room went quiet. Finally, she whispered, Thank you, sir. That afternoon, she visited her mother. They sat on the porch, sun warming the peeling paint beneath their feet. Birds chirped from the wires. The air smelled faintly of fried onions from the neighbor's kitchen. Her mother rocked slowly, smiling. You look lighter. Maybe I am, Janelle said. Her mother glanced at her sideways. So, what's next, Miss Big Job? Janelle laughed softly. Something new. Something good. Her mother reached over and patted her hand. Don't forget who you are in all that glass and shine. I won't, Janelle said. That's kind of the whole point now. Weeks passed. The new division began small. 5 people, 1 mission. Protect the truth in the data. They called it the Trust Team. Every time she walked into their glass-walled office and saw those words on the door, Janelle felt a quiet pride that no paycheck could buy. And sometimes, late in the day, she'd see Mr. Avery pass by, still busy, still polished, but when their eyes met, they shared a look that said, We remember how this started. One evening, long after the others had gone, Janelle lingered by the window again. The skyline pulsed with life. Cars, lights, the steady rhythm of a city that never stopped moving. She thought about that first night. The broken glass, the men whispering, the choice she almost didn't make. If she'd stayed quiet, none of this would exist. Her mother's laugh wouldn't echo through the porch. Her badge wouldn't hang by her desk. And this company, this team, might have crumbled under the weight of its own secrets. She whispered to herself, almost smiling, Doing right won't always keep you safe, but it'll let you sleep. She looked out over the city one last time before turning off the lights. The reflection in the glass showed a woman who had walked through fear, through doubt, and into something stronger. Not a waitress anymore, not even a survivor, but a voice that learned to speak, and in doing so, taught others to listen. And somewhere beyond the glass and hum of servers, the city seemed to breathe with her. Alive, honest, awake.